Hello, Aurelia Davis here. I've been doing this trends in education 2024, trends in education 2024. The first one, homeschooling. The second one, parent power. And tonight we're talking about does the traditional classroom still exist? Does the traditional classroom still exist? So you need to know exactly what the traditional classroom looked like and what it was. And believe you me, I was around with the traditional classroom back in the day. Okay, when desks were in rows of six and about seven or five, six desks going back, bounded and secured to the floor, that was a traditional classroom. A blackboard in front with a chalk and erasers. That's a traditional classroom. The library was down the hall. Full library was down the hall. The gym was in the basement. You went to a lunchroom, or either before you went to a lunchroom, you did do the also you went home for lunch. We did home lunches, and then after a while, when they found out so many children were not being taken care of during that hour they were awake, then of course what we did is we started having lunch in school. The traditional classroom day was like from 9 to 3:15, and that's what was happening in Illinois. That was what was happening in Chicago. The classroom started from kindergarten to 6th grade. And then what would happen is that you would go to a upper grade center. If your school did not have seventh and eighth grade was considered upper grades, upper grades, yeah, or middle grades. And so you would go to another school sometimes if you to attend seventh and eighth grade. And then from seventh and eighth grade, you attended high school, which was freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. That was the traditional school, the traditional classroom back in the day. Does that exist in 2024? No. No, it does not. No, it does not. I was a part of that. I was a part of that. I did have my erasers. I did have my chalkboard. I had to learn how to had to write on the chalkboard. And then the chalkboards had full lines going across. So we learned how to write on the chalkboard, so on and so forth. The first thing that changed in my traditional classroom was that our principals put in whiteboards. And with those whiteboards, what we had to do was basically write with marker. And I learned how to do that. And I really enjoyed doing that. Another thing before the whiteboards came is that they removed all the permanent desks in the classroom. Unfortunately, they found out that a lot of schools basically had asbestos in the tiles. So the classrooms had to be just completely demolished and torn up and redone all over again. And then what would happen also is that they would replace your classrooms would replace with movable desks or either tables and chairs. And usually the tables and chairs were in the classroom for the smaller children. Um, what else was traditional that no longer exists? A lot of the older buildings still had those up and down sliding boards where the coats went in the coat rack and everything. But then a lot of schools turned around and they started putting lockers outside. So even preschoolers and even kindergartners had lockers, and they found that to be very convenient, which gave you more room in the classroom itself. Um, traditional resources was gym and library and music and art. And eventually, music and art was taken out and replaced with something else. Traditional resources there was a counselor, there was a social worker, there was a psychologist, and of course there were clerks in the office. These were the traditional school, traditional classrooms. Those no longer exist. And of course, the traditional coursework was science, social studies, reading, and math. Those were the core groups, and those still pretty much are in place, but they have added quite a few more to the learning aspect of what children should be learning in school. So, of course, coming into the late 90s and into the 2000s, we started working with laptops and computers, and teachers were asked to put their attendance on in a laptop, to record your attendance in a laptop, to put grades in a laptop. We used to have report cards, we used to have course books that we would get our grades in, and we would keep up with those things for 4 years in high school, get back and forth, and you have a whole, in fact, if I can find some of that stuff, I'll let you see what it looks like. But I still have some of those things. So things have gotten completely turned over. And I'm going to say, to the best, and bringing things up to par as to what children need nowadays, making things more efficient, making things more consistent, which is good because things had a tendency of changing back in the day. But as we have come into technology, heavily into technology, of course, now you have smart boards on your where you can project things on your screen, screens, and learning on your smart boards in your classrooms, and so on and so forth. Children are given laptops, and they have laptop carts that go, and children are working on the laptops as young as preschool, as young as kindergarten, and so on and so forth. So yes, the traditional classroom no longer exists. But if you think about it, from the traditional classroom that I talked about, what was in place before that? You're talking about that one room schoolhouse that had grades kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, or either children ages 6 all the way to 18, all in one classroom. So education has to evolve in order to meet the needs of children that are in our classrooms today. It has to evolve. It has to keep changing. But at the same time, I'm cautious about this. That as it changes, make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do for the children and the students that are sitting in front of you, and you're just not running over stuff or throwing things at children. I believe and still believe that children still need that voice, that individual adult, that adult in the classroom to guide and direct them. Teachers are now becoming more facilitators. And as you look at problem-based learning and all of the different trends of different things that are happening, children need that now, because then they're able to basically teach themselves. And once they start teaching themselves, they have a tendency of owning up or owning the lesson that they have taught themselves, and they feel good about what they've been able to learn or teach themselves, which is positive. This is good. To be able to sit there and learn and listen to someone else just run off at the mouth and talk and talk and talk. And sometimes we know it does not go in here. It goes right past the child. So for them to be involved in their educational journeys now is very, very, very important. So that traditional classroom out the door, what's in place now is ever evolving, and we are embracing it because children need to learn. This is Aurelia Davis. Glad to see you again. Take care.